Hold on. You're telling me that Overwatch has lore? Why, yes, it does. In fact, Overwatch has 27 comics and 2 5-part series comics, London Calling and New Blood, 14 short stories, 8 of which are included in the Heroes Ascendant collection, 5 lore bites, which are basically shorter short stories, 3 novels, Hero of Numbani, Deadlock Rebels, and Sojourn, 1 giant in-universe textbook full of juicy world-building and lore tidbits called Declassified, short biographies for each of the individual heroes, 3 PvE archive missions, 3 PvE invasion story missions, 18 animated shorts, 1 15-minute anime special, which has been split into 3 parts called Genesis, 21 origin stories, 2 of which have not been uploaded to the YouTube channel, 18 in-universe articles and letters and other texts, and 8 lore tweets. Excluded from this list is a bunch of just random stuff like the map tour guides and just some other things. I've also excluded some non-canon comics like the Star Watch and the Junkenstein ones, and also some of the gray area canon. This is like the Underworld mission, the Kiriko manga, and just stuff that's like kind of canon. A huge thanks to the master scholar of Overwatch lore, Dr. Six, for gifting me this giant list of just everything lore-related and with links and stuff, and it is a godsend. Thank you very much. Okay, I get it. There's lore, but like, what's the lore? Like, what's going on here? So here's the most basic, bare bones, skeletal explanation of lore that I can give you. It's the future. People made robots. Some of these robots just do normal robot things, and others just control literally everything. One giant robot called Anubis was in charge of climate change and decided, hey, I know what the problem is. It's humanity. Let's get rid of him. So Anubis took control of all the Omnics in the world and also made his own robot OCs because he can do that. So Anubis attacked humanity with his cool new friends and his cool new pets and started the Omnic Crisis. The Omnic Crisis went on. All hope was lost until the mysterious Overwatch Strike team came in and started defeating the robots. And then one robot, the one sentient one called Aurora, basically became a created the Iris. It's kind of vague, and gave all the other robots sentience, which like Anubis couldn't control sentient Omnics. So there you go, and there you go. Overwatch gets a chance. Overwatch beats up Anubis, quarantines them. The end. Overwatch becomes an official organization, and they just keep peace around the world and politics and whatnot and stuff. And suddenly, Overwatch got in trouble. They're doing illegal things, and then they got shut down. They're illegal now. Winston said, oh, hey, things are bad, so let's do something legal and bring everyone back because Null Sector's attacking and killing everyone, so we gotta stop that. And so new Overwatch is formed, and they're all fighting Null Sector, and that's where we are. So all of that is like 15 to 30% of the lore, which means the rest of everything is just character exploration and world building, which is good and it's fun. So if there's this giant story with all this lore and all these characters in the background, why don't a lot of people know about it? It really feels like a vast majority of the fandom does not care about lore, even though it is a huge part of the game. Yeah, Overwatch is a PvP game, but the lore is still a rather large part of it. It's pretty surprising how much of lore is just like not advertised and how much people are just not aware of. Just look at the list again and take a shot for every list you didn't know existed. And if you're blackout drunk, yeah, that's kind of the problem. You should know this stuff. I mean, it's part of Overwatch. Why isn't this like stuff being pushed and advertised? Why don't people care about it or know about it? Why is this stupid misinformation being spread everywhere? What I've really been just asking myself is why don't people seem to care about Overwatch lore? The Overwatch lore is essential to Overwatch. I mean, without Overwatch lore, Overwatch just can't be Overwatch. You can't really write characters. You can't really make maps because they have to have a story behind them or else it'll just kind of be a generic town battlefield. A lot of the lore has so much heart and soul and sweat and tears and storytelling genius behind it. And yet a lot of the fandom just pretends it doesn't exist. And it really confuses me because it's really cool and important. And like, why is this not bigger than bigger? Like, it should be bigger. I mean, these books are cool. They're great. I want more of them. But did you know they existed in the first place? And why is that? Why is this stuff not being advertised? Why don't you know about lore? The lore isn't ignored by like the entire fandom. As evidence, there are people who care about Overwatch lore. It's why it's the way that it is, and I guess the reaction it does to the people who do care. There's a lot of evidence that Blizzard is the one who truly does not care and is the one that's making people not care, and that bothers me a lot. So in this video, I really like to answer 3 essential questions. 1, why don't people care about lore? 2, what happened to PvE? And 3, what is the future of lore? Overwatch lore exists and it's important and I must see it. Where can I find it? Well, you can find most of the lore on the Overwatch website. This website sucks horribly. So to find the Overwatch lore, you have to go to game info and into the media tab, which is like a tab and a tab, and there you'll have all the comics and short stories and all the jazz. Well, most of it. It's really hard to find the in-universe texts, like the articles and letters I mentioned, and good luck trying to find it, because there's like, the only search option is to search for other players, basically, so good luck on that. If you want to find the animated shorts on their videos, also good luck, because the videos tab hasn't been updated since season 6, which is an actual year ago. Why? The lore bites, which are like shorter short stories, are just lumped together with the short stories, which is kind of confusing. I mean, it is technically a short story. It's written like a short story, but the normal short stories are like 20-ish pages long on average, and the lore bites are like 7 to 10 average page length. So there's a clear difference, but they don't like make that difference. You kind of just have to figure it out, I guess, which like giving lore bites their own classification would be kind of useful for organization purposes. The comics and short stories being lumped together is just messy. I mean, when you press see all, it is separated, but you have to scroll through everything to find something specific, and it's just kind of annoying sometimes. I feel like the website could really benefit from a sort option. I'm thinking like 3 categories, like chronological, maybe by release date, or in-universe would be kind of cute actually. Maybe alphabetical. The alphabets are awesome. By hero, if you want to look specifically as to which like short stories and comics Winston appears in, you should be able to do that. That would be very helpful too for people who want to learn like the specific lore for their favorite blurbo. Differentiate between short stories and lore bites. That'd be a huge improvement. I think maybe also just putting the media tab on the main page would be really, really useful to get more eyes on it. Some of the bio pages for the heroes do have like origin stories linked, but I feel like they should also put their animated shorts and their comics and other media they're in under that tab. So it's just you can just go to a hero and see all of their lore right there, and it's really easy. It's convenient. Why is this not a thing already? And please update the website, because like this is where all the lore pretty much is. Is it that hard to organize things around here? Do you not want to pay the interns to move some stuff around? So this really just highlights one of the big issues as to why people don't really care about lore or don't want to get into it. Because lore is not accessible. If what I just described to you sounds like a scavenger hunt, that's because it kind of is. You can find the comics and the short stories on the media tab as described pretty easily right there. The stuff that's missing, you can go on the YouTube channel and find. But if you want to find, like, let's say the books, you gotta look for them if you know what you're looking for. If you want to see the in-universe text letters and articles, you gotta look for those if you know what you're looking for, which you probably don't know. No one tells you about it. Also, a lot of like the lore tweets I mentioned, that's like stuff is only on social media on Twitter. So if you want to look at those things, again, you have to look for them if you know what you're looking for, which you probably don't again. And well, it's a mess. Everything is just everywhere. You have to look for everything. I just kind of wish there was a database, a general database. If it's the website, if it's in the game, if it's a book or like something, just having everything ever in one convenient spot made officially by Blizzard would really help a lot. There are attempts to make databases. It's not really a database, but the YouTube playlist, the lore playlist, it exists, but it's kind of a mess too. So just having a quick look at the Overwatch lore playlist, it's kind of disorganized like a lot in how it's ordered. So it starts off with Genesis, and then it goes into calling in Kiriko, and then a bunch of like Overwatch 1 shorts, in a completely random order, and Junker Queen Wastelander's just thrown in there immediately. And like the audio description's also in the middle of that. The other audio descriptions are on the bottom. Iliades is in the bottom of the playlist. There's an ad for Genesis in the same playlist that has Genesis. Basically, a vast majority of the origin stories are just not here for some reason. Also, off the bat, I just realized that The Plan and A Great Day animated shorts are just not here, and it's a huge mess. Someone just fix this, please. Like, who made this playlist? Seriously, I've seen fan playlists that do better than this. I think other than the playlist and like the website, their like lore database I can think of is the missions menu for the story missions. I'm gonna call it the Lore Codex from now on. The Lore Codex does have some lore and info in it, but it's mostly meant to serve the story missions. There is hero information, but the hero information only has heroes relevant to the missions. Same for the little shorts they have. They have like only 3 that are relevant to the story missions again. There is some also world building little tabs, but again, it's context for the story missions, and a lot of those you have to unlock by playing them. So the Codex, I mean, it's not really a database. It is, like I said, just for story missions. Other than the lore codex, as for like any lore in game, for any like links to like the external media, Winston, Kiriko, and Sojourn are the only ones who have animated shorts that are linked in their hero gallery menu. It's weird that there's only those 3 when there's like a bunch of other heroes that are in animated shorts, but for some reason theirs are not linked in the hero gallery. It would have been very useful to have those. I think they should like at least link the origin stories. That would really help a lot to get players to look more into the character. Like, I think the best way to make a database for all this external media to put everything together is just to make a database in the game. Just like have a new tab for like, I don't know, story tab or something, and just like put all the shorts and comics and articles and text in there, so it's all in one convenient place where players can just look at it. No one has to go on a scavenger hunt. No one has to search for things. It's all there. Like, the lore is just in game. If you want to read it, just go into the game. I mean, you can get more lore nerds to play the game at least. And I'm sure like putting the stuff in the game is not rocket science. I mean, it's just uploading MP4 files and PDFs. Like, it shouldn't take too many resources, like, at all. So I don't know why they haven't really done this before. And if people aren't interested, they're just going to ignore it anyway. So, like, it doesn't really hurt anyone to put an in-game database. And maybe if you do want people to look at it, you could just add little incentives. Like if you just like look at a short or look at a comic or something, they give you like an XP boost or maybe an endorsement level. Some of these like short stories did have skins tied to them in old Overwatch 1 events. So if you added the short story that was tied to the skin and they can read it, it can be a way for the player to earn that skin, so they're just not completely rare and in the vault forever and ever and no one can get them anymore. And if you just don't want to go through all this trouble to make a database, at least just have some sort of link to the media tab on the website. I mean, any sort of direction to the lore can really help its accessibility and get more eyes on it. Just a link to the website would do wonders to get more people to look at the lore, because you're pointing it out to them like, hey guys, look at this, and more people will be like, oh hey, it's right there. And they're going to look at it more often. Accessibility is essential to get people to care about things. If I want to care about this book, I want to be able to purchase this book. I don't want to have to fill out a crossword puzzle just to read this book, you know. That's going to make me turn away from it. Okay, so I have talked pretty extensively about external lore you can find outside the game. So how is lore presented to you in-game, if at all? Well, the primary way you're going to learn new things about characters and the world is through hero interactions. Hero interactions are basically when the characters just talk to each other before the game starts. Sometimes they're also just talking to themselves and have a little tidbit about whatever map they're on and whatnot and stuff like that. Now, these interactions are not canon, but the information presented in them are. Think of them as like, what if this character met this character and what would they say? They're hypothetical scenarios, just the what ifs. That's all you have to know. Moira has never actually met Lucio. That just pointing that out, it never happened. I mean, it could, but we don't know yet. These interactions are really used for world building and for characterizations, for fun facts and hints and foreshadowing, you know, fun stuff. So there's this one interaction that came out recently, and I really don't think that these interactions should be like a primary source for lore. They shouldn't be, you know, for substantial lore drops, but it's happened before. So there's this Echo and Ramatra interaction where Echo asks, "Hey yo, Ramatra, how was Awakening like?" And Ramatra is like, "Oh yeah, it sucked. I was in New York. I was in a battlefield and I barely survived." And that information is extremely crucial to Ramatra's character and recontextualizes a lot of his trauma. And so, okay, how do we hear this interaction? Well, you have to have a Ramatra and Echo on your team, which is rare because there's 40 characters. So, odds are low. Also, Echo and Ramatra have multiple interactions with each other, so chances are even lower. So when you finally get the heroes together, stars are aligned for you to get the interaction, but then suddenly, Lucio is asking more what her favorite animal is, and you don't hear the interaction. And the only way you're going to hear this interaction if you specifically look for it. It's just the odds of hearing crucial lore information should not be this stupidly low. And it's like you're probably going to go your entire Overwatch lifespan without hearing this really important interaction that you would find really interesting, that helps you better understand Ramatra's character. And it's like, why? Also, the interaction is just like super blunt, and I don't like how it's written. Like, it's just, it tells, not shows, and it bothers my brain so much. I could do better. Why no one cares about the lore Exhibit B. Lore isn't advertised. When it came to the launch of Overwatch 1, lore was pretty much a large part of the marketing. A lot of the original Overwatch 1 animated shorts came out pre-launch and somewhere around post-launch, and so did a lot of the comics. Lore was a large selling point of Overwatch 1. So when it came to Overwatch 2, marketing was... best I can do is one tweet. Sorry. We don't have the resources to market our lore, but, you know, we can give you 1,000 shorts based off of this one skin. Our lore is just not advertised, like, at all. Like I said, the best you get is one tweet, which is really not enough to get people to remember this thing that's coming out. Back in Overwatch 1, the short stories and the 5-part series got little promotional videos to promote them. These two projects, the short stories and the comics that got these promotional vids, also got events tied to them. They got their own unique skins and special events. Deadlock Rebels was the only book, however, that got an original animation promotional video, event, and skin. And the other two, Sojourn and Hero no Bani, got nothing for some reason. Now I've been declassified and Heroes Ascendant, two of like the biggest lore drops in like forever, don't even get any promotional videos or anything, just 1-2 tweets in the end. Hope you remember this thing came out. Well, to be fair, they are releasing the Heroes Ascendant stories for free. They didn't tell anyone until after everyone bought the book. The books are not advertised on the website. The only book I could find on the official Blizzard store was Sojourn. The rest you just kind of have to look for on Amazon if you know what you're looking for. It's just kind of annoying to see how much effort is put into advertising skins of all things compared to the lore nowadays. Like, for the recent Venture comic, they just gave you a release date on a blog and they just hoped you remembered that, because when it actually came out, they didn't post a tweet. Like, you just had some work on your calendar. If you missed it, well, good luck, buddy. Hope you remember it existed. Just bring back the promotional videos. The promotional videos I talked about for the other lore, they're just slideshow presentations. Like, it's like zero effort at all, and they just don't do that anymore for some reason. I think it's not just like this external media that's just not being advertised. I think this weird hesitancy. I think it's hesitancy. This hesitancy to promote the lore is not just present in external media, it's also starting to be present in how heroes are advertised and presented. So, historically, heroes have been advertised with their origin story first and their gameplay trailers second. There's been a recent trend of the gameplay trailers coming out first and then the origin story second, which, I mean, it should, on paper, that doesn't sound very bad. It really actually affected my opinion on Juno initially. When Juno's hero trailer came out, she was presented as just a carefree, bubbly little Martian girl. I legitimately thought she was just kind of boring and plastic and did not have any depth, and I was like, oh god, the character writing's going downhill, we're doomed. And then her voice lines came out, and then her recent comic came out, and it turns out she has a lot of depth to her. She has this really anxious side, and she has this burden on her shoulders that is just not shown at all. And that side of her that makes her more of a complex character, it's completely omitted from the gameplay trailer, which I don't know why they do that. I mean, if you're going to start showing gameplay trailers first, you have to put more character into those. A major aspect of what makes a character appealing is that they have an actual character and backstory that makes them unique and appealing and compelling and cool. And so when you're showing me this character and I think, hey, they're boring, I'm probably not going to play them. A strong first impression really matters to get people to care about characters and really anything in general. When you just don't really care to have that first impression really hit, it's not gonna work. People are not gonna care if the first impression isn't strong. I mean, some people will probably do care, like me, who was a little distraught to think Juno was kind of boring, but turns out she's good. You're jeopardizing your characters by doing this. Speaking of like gameplay trailers versus origin stories, I think they're actually gonna phase out origin stories, as poor Venture didn't get anything, poor baby. Juno got a comic storytime read instead of an actual origin story. Origin stories serve 3 purposes: to show you who this character is, how they got here, and why they are the way that they are. Basically, their entire backstory. These origin stories were presented through the character's perspective, which means it also offered a lot of characterization, made each origin story very unique to that character. You can do a lot more with an origin story. I mean, those drawings are built to move, but the comics drawings are not built to move. They're meant to be drawings. Origin stories also have their own unique music. The Juno comic did not have its own unique music, unlike their origin stories, which had specific tracks to fit the origin story and that character, which helped to enhance the origin story. The medium just also has a lot you can do with pacing and mood and atmosphere when it's a video. The moment after Iliadi nukes the Inti Warriors would not hit as hard if it was a comic. So please, origin stories are very important, are very cool, and have a lot of potential. So I don't know why they want to phase them out. Please don't do this. Comics are cool. It serves the same purposes. A comic just doesn't hit as hard as an origin story. And also, origin stories are just very unique to Overwatch, so you're once again stripping part of its identity. Good job. We need to market the lore more. And it's not like we don't have options to do so. I'm not a marketing expert. Just disclaimer there. I'm into lore, which probably give away that I'm not a marketing expert. I mean, I can give you some suggestions right now if like you guys are stuck on something. I mean, you could just tweet more. You can make some YouTube shorts and TikTok explaining some things. How about just some recapping some old short stories and comics? You could just retweet and repost some things, remind people that this existed. Have some fun facts about like behind the scenes and early drafts of some of the things. Like, I really want to know what some rejected pitches were. How about just like some like fun community events, like a quiz or something? If you want to do a Jeopardy, I can make it. I'll host it for free. Hit me up. I'll do it. How about our Reddit MAA? There's going to be a lot of stupid questions, but the best part about an MAA, you can choose which questions you want to answer. How about an official guide to getting into the lore? Tell them where to find things, or a database. You know those like little skits they do to promote like skins and stuff of just like people, the players just like wandering around doing random things? What if you just use those skits to make lore reenactments? I want to see you guys try to reenact 0 Hour. That'd be really cute and funny. I actually want to see that. The last 2 comics have had little storytime videos attached to them with the voice actor voicing out the comic, and they've been really cute and received well. So I think if you did that for the previous comics and short stories, I think that would be a great way to get people to remember these things, and fantastic marketing. Literally anything else to advertise the lore would be great, please. Please. I think we've reached a point where we can answer the first question. Why does no one seem to care about lore? Lore is not accessible, it's not advertised, and as such, these 2 factors have basically conditioned players to not care. And this is entirely Blizzard's fault. Because it's not accessible and there's so much out there, it's daunting to get into. Because it's not marketed, players are going to think, okay, well, this is not important, so why should I care about it? This is not worth looking into if Blizzard is not pointing me to it. Lore has been pushed to the sideline and away from the spotlight, which has basically created this conditioning. There's also, unfortunately, another harsh truth that we must come to terms with. And it's that the reason why people don't care about lore is because people just don't care about story and characters and lore. Some players are just here to shoot things, and that's okay. everyone has their own preferences, not everyone's gonna care about storytelling and themes and settings and world building. A lot of people don't care about that, and that sucks, but that's the unfortunate truth, that there will always be people who will never care no matter what. Okay, I don't understand kids these days, but from my understanding, kids these days don't want to sit down and read a short story. They don't want to look at a comic. Some do. I think most likely they want to see an animated short, but if Blizzard isn't gonna make those anymore, then people are just gonna care less about the lore. The animated shorts are very popular, even to non-lore fans. It's the main attraction, basically, when it comes to lore. For most people, there is the fan base that will never care no matter what. There's still the fan base that does care. There are plenty of people who do care. And if those people are not catered to, and if those people realize that the lore is not important anymore, they're gonna leave the game. It's important that the lore is respected. So yeah, what people don't care about lore because, well, some people just don't care, and the lore itself is not accessible or advertised. And luckily, two of those problems are an easy fix if the company Blizzard just tries to care themselves. And well, this conditioning and this not caring has led to the failure of PvE. Let's talk about PvE. It's canceled. It's done. I don't think they will make anymore. I'm sorry if this is how you found out. It's not my responsibility to tell you, but as you can see from Blizzard's official statement, they didn't say anything. Okay, how do you know this? How did we get here? Well, to explain all this and the downfall of PvE, I would like to go back to the ancient world of 2019. In Blizzcon 2019, Overwatch 2 was announced. They promised a full-fledged story campaign. Hero missions would be non-canon random side quests with all heroes playable. Talent system, where every hero would have talents, and they could use those for hero missions and I think story missions. And well, this is like, everyone knows this. This is the whole shebang, the start of everything. And after it was announced, we kind of went quiet. Overwatch 1 got less updates. The next update we got was in 2020 BlizzCon Online, which was during the times, the plague. They showed off a lot more about the story campaign. They talked about the hero missions. They showed off the talent trees, and they looked really ambitious. And well, it was a really exciting time. I remember watching the BlizzCon Online and Overwatch 2 presentation live. Those were really happy days, especially when Zenyatta appeared. Well, Overwatch 2 launched in October 2022 without story missions, without PvE. Overwatch 2 just went on. On May 16, 2023, there was a developer update where they announced that the hero missions and the talents were canceled and would not be going forward. Well, somehow, unfortunately, the wording was terrible. There's a lot of misinformation spreading, and people legitimately thought that everything was canceled, and story missions were canceled too, although that was not the case. And literally, like, minutes later, they showed their roadmap, and story missions was on that, so, like, I don't know how this misinformation happened. Like, how? Well, the streamer doesn't really help either. And on August 2023, the story missions actually did appear, but the damage from the misinformation was already done, and most people just did not tune in. 3 story missions came out in August. We got the Rio mission, which was, I think it's called Resistance. The Toronto one was called Liberation, and we had the 3rd one, Gothenburg, which was called Ironclad. So the story missions were fun. The cutscenes were fantastic. The storytelling was fantastic. Well, this wonderful thing happened in January 2024, where basically probably half of the Overwatch team got laid off. Basically all of the PvE team was canceled. Some environmental artists, the lead narrative designer, and some of the lore historians also got axed, which is not good. And well, that time was a scary time because we didn't know what was going to happen. It was very eerie silence since then. We didn't know if like story missions was going to continue at all. In March 18, 2024, a very damning Kotaku article came out. This article was titled, Overwatch 2 devs fear story missions have been cancelled. Talked about a lot about the issues going on behind the scenes regarding PvE. This article interviews anonymous ex-developers and talks about their experience. And basically, a lot of what was said really boiled down to the higher-ups did not have any confidence in PvE. So one piece of information that really stands out, that really tells you everything you have to know about how the higher-ups viewed PvE, is this one quote. Quote, the team was told the intent was to drop 3 missions around every 18 months. They add that while the entire campaign may not be ready to ship yet, every mission is reportedly in some degree of completion at Blizzard. According to that same source, those levels range from fully playable to still in concept, end quote. To put that in perspective, 18 months from August 2023 is around January, February of 2025. Yeah, I think that does say everything. Well, after the article came out, that following week was nerve-wracking. We all collectively agreed that story missions is probably dead, but I feel like a lot of other fans were just like, whatever happens, it was a good run. And well, Blizzard didn't say anything, but a very reputable gaming journalist did. On March 22nd, 2024, and not even a week later, a Bloomberg article titled Blizzard Makes Big Changes as Overwatch 2 Struggles released and gave us the nail in the coffin. Quote, Overwatch 2 developers were informed that the company does not plan to finish any of the remaining planned PvE content and will instead double down on competitive player versus player gameplay according to the people familiar, end quote. According to the article, I think the reason given was because PvE just didn't sell well. And also, this article also says that apparently the Overwatch team did not get their bonus. God. Great job, Blizzard. Cancellation of PvE is one of those moments where you know exactly what you were doing. I was in the psych class, just the teacher was rambling, doing teacher rambling stuff. And I just went on Discord to see how things were doing, because usually, because my class was during Overwatch update time, so I would sometimes just peek in just to see if there's any new Overwatch updates. And then someone on the Discord server I'm in posted a link to the article, and my heart dropped, and that sense of dread was not fun. Everyone was depressed, everyone was angry and frustrated, and it was just a bad day. So how did PvE fail? How did we get here? There are 3 major factors behind the failure of PvE. First of all, it was not really replayable without the talents in the hero missions. The story missions were paywall behind a $15 bundle that no one wanted to buy, and the marketing kind of sucks. I don't really understand why they had to cancel all of talents. If it was because of resources, then there are ways you could have just reduced the amount of resources instead of just, cutting everything. Because you already spent those resources, so why would you just get rid of everything? Yeah, I can definitely see where this skill tree was way too ambitious and too much work for, 40 heroes. I feel like if they just cut it down, maybe the original 3 or 6 or something from the back in 2019 Rio demo, so some kind of that would work. I mean, it is still gutted and not what was promised, but at least you have something. You have some sort of replayability to get people to play it again and again and again. As much as the story matters, the gameplay also does, because these are things that are meant to be played. The story cannot carry the whole thing. Initially, when PvE came out, the story missions were sold in a $15 bundle. With this bundle, you got the missions, a sojourn skin, and some coins. Now, the skin itself was 1,000 coins, which is roughly 10 USD. The missions themselves are 500 coins, which is 5 USD. In reality, Blizzard was charging 3 times the amount they were worth. And I can see why it scared a lot of people away. Luckily, I was desperate enough to want to play this thing, so I put down the $15 on the table right then and there. But I'm pretty sure for a lot of people, that was a difficult decision, and ultimately, it was just best just to watch a YouTube video of it. People just uploaded the entire thing on YouTube, so what was the point of buying it if you can just watch it for free? I don't understand what happened with the marketing. It just sucked. For some reason, the story missions, which were a lore event based on the lore that required knowledge of the lore was not advertised to promote lore. You have 8 years worth of lore things to advertise and catch people on, and you just don't use it for advertisement. There was an event called the Reveal event where they just talked a little bit more about Invasion, but they barely talked about the story at all and just focused on the gameplay. I mean, I guess you don't want spoilers, but you could have talked about a little bit of it, the context, but whatever. The most direction given to provide players context was a link to just mentions of Recall and Zero Hour, which 0 Hour in itself kind of lacks context because you're missing as to why half of the people are here. The story missions were set up for 8 years, and a lot of players need to catch up. So they could have just spent the advertising just reposting short stories and comics and little recaps to get people up to speed. But they didn't really do that at all. There was like a little intro video when you open up the missions of like Ramatra just like catching up and just doing a little bare bones recap, but I feel like if that was uploaded to social media beforehand, I feel like that would get more people to care about it and try and get into it. If you don't know anything about the lore and don't have to get a recap or anything, you're not going to be interested in story missions because you don't know what's going on. So I felt that recap would have been extremely helpful if it was uploaded beforehand. But it wasn't. You bought it first and then you saw the recap. You should expect that people to buy the story missions already know what's going on. So why would you put that recap intro in missions and paywall that? You could have just, put that on social media to get people interested. You could have used that for advertising, but you fucking didn't. Story missions also crammed into a large season. Season 6 had like Hero Mastery. I think Flashpoint was coming out too. The Iliadi, poor baby, had like the worst hero release. And like season 6 was just way too jam-packed that people who didn't want to care about story missions could care about something else. There were too many things to focus on that Invasion, which was supposed to be the main attraction, was kind of lost in the pile. I think some of the stuff like Hero Mastery and Flashpoint should have come out in the season afterwards so that more spotlight and advertising resources could be put into Invasion. You know, the event that needed most of the resources in advertising because the life of story missions depended on its success that very season. And it was still Invasion focused. Not enough of the advertising was really trying to push Invasion. And even the advertising that there was didn't really cater to the lore audience. Do you know the lore codex I mentioned earlier? They didn't advertise that at all. That was a complete surprise when you bought the story missions. Because I don't get it, because that would be like the lore codex would be a huge selling point for the lore audience, but they just didn't do that. Who is story missions for? Is it the competitive player base or the lore nerds? Because it felt like they were trying to cater to everyone except the actual target demographic. The marketing team basically just got a bunch of football players in a room and said, hey guys, you're gonna love this. Then they proceeded to give everyone a copy of Bertrand Russell's The Problems of Philosophy. You know, to the people who don't care about philosophy. One of the major reasons why the marketing was just sucked too is because the marketing team just did not know how to advertise the lore to the players. Because, as I talked about earlier, audiences are already conditioned not to care about lore. So when the life of a lore event is heavily dependent on the players, there is no one to care. They immediately don't care by default because of that conditioning, because lore is never marketed or accessible. Because of Blizzard themselves, PvE was doomed before it even had a chance. And that sucks. Oh yeah, also, they did advertise Invasion, but they had a very interesting tactic, and they advertised Invasion in a very unique way. Alright guys, we need to advertise Invasion. This is a very important event and it's like the future of Overwatch. How do we advertise this thing? You know what the kids like? John Cena. Let's spend millions of dollars to hire John Cena. Arnold, you are a goddamn genius. You are getting a raise with the entire art department's budget. And then they hired John Cena for millions of dollars, and then it didn't help the marketing, and no one bought PvE, and then it failed. What? PvE didn't make $1 billion on day one? Oh no! Oh, this is awful. We should have hired 2 John Cenas. So the executives of Blizzard saw that the numbers were going down, not according to plan. So they got in a room and they tried to figure out, what do we do now? It's burning. Does anyone have a fire extinguisher? Please help. The executives had 2 options. Option A, fix story missions and try again. Basically, look at the feedback that was given to story missions, add some replayability, lower the cost, and basically just fix all the issues and try again. It's the next batch, and let's see what happens. This is a very high risk option, as people might just see that the last 3 missions failed and not gonna even bother. It also costs more resources to go back and fix things. You have to unfortunately pay people. However, the pros of this decision is that if you actually fix story missions and people give it a second chance, it could actually become more successful than last time. Obviously, things are fixed now, and people will actually enjoy it. If it's replayable and everything, then yeah. If it's fixed and has a better reception, then no, nothing is wasted. All those years of work would be worth it. Your people would like it, and your employees would be happy, and you keep making story missions. The lore nerds would be happy, and everyone's happy. Well, yeah, mostly everyone's happy. Option B, the incinerator. Just don't anymore. Get rid of everything, cancel story missions, who cares, and also fire everyone. Well, some cons to the decision as well. No one likes you. The game loses a primary source of content. Years worth of work and resources and money spent just down the drain or with nothing. The story is in limbo. Again, nobody likes you. Now, the pros option B, well, you spend less resources and less money. That's kind of it. I don't have anything. I think that's like the only pros. So the executives weighed the pros and cons of each decision, and well, they came to the obvious, most logical decision. Option B, the incinerator. As an artist, I know very much what it's like to have a project you work hard at and put your soul in just be ripped away from you, and it's just gone, and you can't do anything, you can't pick it up again. And all of that work just feels like it was kind of pointless. I mean, the pain will subside eventually, but you will never stop thinking about what could have been. And that's why story missions just really hurts for me. Because I just think of all the artists and writers and animators that put all their soul and sweat and tears into this, despite all the troubles, the delays, the management, everything. I'm sure what kept them going was that our players will love this. This will mean a lot to people. And now all of that pain was just for nothing. There's no point. People just didn't care, cut it, and they just didn't think of us. Because no one ever thinks of us. But you know, of course. Money's more important, obviously. Layoffs and the death of PvE. The layoffs and the death of PvE definitely 100% have a huge impact on the game. We're especially seeing the impact of the layoffs during Season 12 right now because it's looking like a desert. Now that PvE is gone, the story's kind of in limbo right now. No one knows how it's going to continue. If it will continue, it better continue. A response I've seen to PvE getting canceled is people saying, oh good, now that the PvE is gone, I can focus on what really matters, the PvP. Can you look me in the eyes and tell me you're having fun with the game right now? Like, do you think it's in a good state and has a prosperous future? Like, don't give me that, okay? The plan was to have PvP and PvE continue alongside each other. The original plan was to have PvE missions every 18 months. You'd have, like, most of the lifespan dedicated to PvP. Like, shut up, please. Alright, so now that story missions and hero missions stuff is gone, do we get any PvE? Oh, yes. Blizzard said, hey guys, we're sorry for breaking our promises and destroying everything you know and love about Overwatch. Would you like this shitty, boring game mode instead? And then we got Gauntlet. Gauntlet was so bad, it was actually removed from the game because it was fucking boring. And a big part of that was because they used the training bots as the enemies that just moved in a single file line, and they were just not fun to fight against because they barely fought against you. You just shot them and they're dead in the end. Wow, so rewarding. So fun. And it doesn't make any sense for them to use training bots. A lot of the criticism was that why didn't they use null sector bots? Because, like, according to the reveal event, the Gauntlet is canonically Winston's training simulation. And according to the lore codex, they canonically have data on the null sector bots. So them not using null sector bots makes less sense than using training bots. I don't understand what the hell happened. And if you wanted to be consistent, you could have just started with the training bots and then slowly transitioned to null sector. Like, what the hell happened here? I'm so glad it's gone, because this is the shittiest apology I've ever gotten. Like, what the fuck? Alright, let's take a little break from lore for a minute, and let's put on our tinfoil hats. Let's talk about BlizzCon 2023. BlizzCon 2023 was what I'd best describe as awkward. BlizzCon 2023 was so weird. In fact, I have 2 conspiracy theories about it. Okay, so just quick disclaimer, these are exactly what they sound like. Wacky, insane, off the walls, ridiculous conspiracy theories that you should take with a bathtub of salt. Okay? Cool. However, I have evidence, so they may be true. Ooh. Theory 1. PvE was originally a talking point, but was cut last minute as the decision to gut it was being made internally. BlizzCon 2023 felt really empty, and I think this is the reason why. Exhibit A, the opening ceremony vid. In BlizzCon 2023, there was this weird opening ceremony clip where they showed a bunch of characters representing each of the franchises. And for Overwatch, they had specifically an edited clip of Zenyatta and Ramatra from the specific cutscene from PvE. A little bit with the Overwatch 2 launch heroes. I like to call them the Powerpuff Girls. Show them in their cinematics. To me, this tells me that they were purposely differentiating between the PvE and PvP side of the game. I don't really understand. I don't know what the rest of the games are like. I don't know if those are there's anything specific going on, and if they're just showing random characters. But I just felt like showing cinematics and then versus PvE. I just feel like that was intentional. I don't know why. It felt intentional. Exhibit B, the guy. I think it was on Saturday before they were starting their panel, talking about the future and what's next. A guy, I don't know who he is. Sorry. A guy came on stage and he made a very specific announcement, and he clarified very specifically that they wouldn't be talking about PvE, but they still support and love their players. Okay, that was weird, because if there was nothing truly wrong and PvE was okay, why would you make that announcement? It's possible that they just wanted to manage expectations, but that just, honestly, if you have to say something, that raises more eyebrows and lowers. If they just didn't say anything, I felt like maybe it would not be as concerning, but because that guy said it, it just had the exact opposite effect. It made everyone legitimately worried. The most damning piece of evidence I have is this Saturday promotional image of Zenyatta on Sarabasa. Now, if you weren't going to talk about PvE, why would you put this specific character on this specific map? According to BlizzCon Online, we know very well that the next mission, the India mission, would take place on Sarabasa, and you'd be saving Zenyatta from Talon. So putting these two together is not a coincidence, because it's clearly a reference to the India mission, which is supposed to be the next mission. So if the intention was to always talk about Mauga, then why is this promotional image not connected to Mauga? Why is it not Mauga on Samoa? Why is this promotional image used to promote what you're going to talk about, not related to anything you're going to talk about? If they had perhaps enough time, then I feel like this image would have been changed. But perhaps because they're making the decision internally, they didn't make it, and they haven't come to a conclusion yet as to what the fate of PvE would be, they didn't have time to change things. So all they could do was edit the text, and they couldn't edit the opening ceremony, and they had no choice but to get the guy to come and say something. Theory 2. Animation styles for A Great Day and Perfect Night were swapped in favor of making the collab look better for investors. Okay, this one I believe less than the other one, because this is definitely the wackier one. I just find it weird that A Great Day, a short that was meant to showcase Mauga's character, was not shown at BlizzCon 2023. Okay, so the Mauga short was 2D animated and was shown I think in December. It was a little while. I think it was a few days, a week or so after Mauga's launch. And A Perfect Night was just a music video collaboration with that one the K-pop group. I don't know. I don't care. Perfect Night was a collaboration music video with a K-pop group, and for some reason, for that one, only half of the music video will be animated. And for some reason, they used the cinematic animation art style for that one. Historically, BlizzCon always had cinematics that would be used to introduce heroes, and the BlizzCon presentation just felt awkward already. Why didn't the Mauga short premiere at BlizzCon? It would have been a great way to showcase his character and get people hyped for him even more than they did. But why did they use the 2D art style too? Because that one, it was kind of important for the plot too, because we learned that Talon is betraying Null Sector. It was a really important short that introduced Mauga, and the short felt like it belonged in BlizzCon. And now the Perfect Night one was cinematic quality, but it's only half of a music video. Why didn't they use the 2D animation for that one? I mean, it's less important, and I felt like the 2D animated would fit better in the style of like for a K-pop group. The cinematic quality animation fits A Great Day much better than it fits Perfect Night, which again is just a little collaboration. But then again, if Perfect Night was only 2D animated, I don't think it would get as much buzz as the animated short. Thing is, what I keep thinking about is if Perfect Night, just 2D animation like A Great Day, then I feel like it just wouldn't get as many eyes on it. The manga short actually has less views than normal cinematics because of the cinematic quality. The K-pop music video has, I think it nearly has 100 million views, and compared to A Great Day that has only like a few million, which compared to the other cinematics, that's not impressive at all. That's kind of sad, actually. The animation styles were swapped intentionally because a cinematic quality animation is more interesting and gets more views than a 2D animation one. If this actually happened, it is legitimately blasphemous if they put more resources into the stupid collaboration than the actual story important animated short. And it's just like, it also feels like a waste of budget because like that cinematic quality is only like half of the music video. A Great Day is much more deserving of cinematic quality than its K-pop video. This transitions into my next problem that I want to talk about, and it's collabs and how they're being presented. Alright, I do not hate collabs. In fact, I recognize that collabs are actually very good and healthy for the game. Now that PvE is off the table, collabs are a way to replace that lost content and revenue, which could help keep the game alive. However, my concern is how they're presented. Some of these collabs have been presented with animated trailers, and these animated trailers are outsourced, as far as I know. I don't know anything about game development, but I can use common sense and realize that I'm pretty sure there's a budget when it comes to outsourcing, and they can't just outsource everything forever and ever. My first concern regarding collabs is that I feel like the outsourcing budget that is going towards the animated trailers could very well just go towards a new animated short. Because like when I see the animation styles for the Cowboy Bebop collab and the Transformers one, I just think about how cool it would be to have an original story set in the Overwatch universe with this animation style. And I'm not alone in that sentiment. Like the Transformers collab didn't just have an anime trailer, it also had a comic with it. That's two outsourcing things slurped up by the budget right then and there. I don't think that the comic was necessary. I feel like we could just have the trailer and just, it's like, you can understand from the skins that these are based kind of like fusions, or just like, it's Transformers hero skins, it doesn't need lore. But the Transmission Transformers comic, it bothered me because it was really jarring to see Ramatra in it. Okay, hear me out, okay? We as the audience know that Ramatra is the leader of Nullsect. However, in the story, this has not been established yet. Where we left off in the narrative is that they know that the boss exists, they know his voice, but they don't know who he is yet. We have a potential suspect that it's Ramatra, but we still don't really understand that Ramatra from past is Null Sector leader. That connection hasn't been made yet. Ramatra currently has not been revealed as the current leader of Null Sector in the narrative. Going from, oh hey, who's Ramatra, to Ramatra is collaborating with Megatron and is really furious and commanding Null Sector right now. I know it's not canon, but it's still really jarring to me to go from that jump. I'm the only one on the planet who has this problem, so I don't know, it's just jarring. Let's move on. My other concern is that if collabs just keep getting pushed, and if this is the content we get every single season, we get more collabs because it's proven as a moneymaker, I'm concerned that if things go out of hand, that Overwatch will just become the Fortnite of hero shooters. I mean, it probably won't happen. It's concerning, okay? I mean, you could argue money from collabs could mean more money that can be put into lore resources, but this is Blizzard we're talking about. If they see that collabs makes money, they're gonna put more resources into making collabs look better and fancier because it makes them money. They're gonna care less about the lore because that doesn't make as much money as the collabs. Okay, do you see the problem here? Like, I feel like if we have some sort of balance when it comes to the presentation, I feel like I'd feel a lot better if we get collabs like every other season rather than every single season. And if we have less animated trailers for those collabs and just regular gameplay trailers, because I feel like those are also probably cheaper to produce, and more outsourcing resources can be put into making really cool animated shorts for their actual universe. So why does this all matter? why does lore matter? That question is easy to answer. It's because the lore is the very foundation of Overwatch. Characters which are part of the lore are the main appeal of Overwatch and hero shooters in general. The reason why the lore and the world building is so important to the characters is because characters can flourish much better if they have a world to live in. You don't really care about a character's backstory if it's basically meaningless, if it just doesn't have its own reality. Sojourn talking about her dog is not as meaningful as us seeing the dog and seeing her thinking about the dog and her in shockwaves. If we didn't spend time in the world of Overwatch, the null sector invasion would not hit as hard as it does now. Character interactions and their relationships feel meaningful because they've been explored, because the world they live in feels real, because it's been made to feel real because of the world building and the lore behind it. Characters in the lore are just essential to what gives Overwatch its soul. Without a proper world and characters and a backstory, and if nothing feels real, then it will not touch the audience. The very human touch, the storytelling, that soul, that is the soul of Overwatch. That human touch that storytelling provides. Without that human touch, if that human touch is not cared for, of course Overwatch feels soulless. If everything being pushed is marketing and stuff, and the lore is being sidelined, things feel less real, and that human touch is slowly getting lost. And the reason why the lore matters is because, well, it's good. There's a lot of good stuff to enjoy. It has its own worth. Everyone points to dragons as the peak Overwatch storytelling, the god, nothing will ever beat this. And well, yeah, it's deserving of that title, but there's a lot of other things to enjoy that are just as good as it. The Last Bastion, I legitimately think, should be studied in film school. The Retribution comic has some really clever visual storytelling and foreshadowing that's very effective. It's the hallway scene in the Toronto mission. It has this really eerie and quiet build-up. You don't know, even the characters, how they whisper, and how everything feels so quiet and eerie and unsettling. When you open the door, you see all these ominous bodies all around. They're all against the walls because they were trying to escape and trying to stay away from the subjugators. The choir in the background, the characters just freaking out and not knowing what's going on. That scene is so powerful, and I love it. And I wish more people would experience that. Also, like, the Zenyatta and Ramatra cutscene at the end of the PvE is just phenomenal. Like, that, I think that's peak storytelling. I don't care about dragons. Like, move aside. There's a new guy in town. That cutscene is not only effective in showcasing Ramatra's motives, but also gives you glimpses of Zenyatta's character. By paying attention to his body language and the specific words he's remembering, you can really deduce a lot about what he's thinking and his mindset in that moment. That one shot of the iris, I want that on a t-shirt. I gotta put that on my wallpaper because that's really good. I love that shot so much. Seeing Symmetra grow through a character arc is really rewarding, even though it's really slow, but I think because of it's so slow, it legitimately feels like she's growing along with the game. Stone by Stone is my favorite short story, period, and it's not because of Zenyatta, although it's a major part of it. Just seeing Symmetra be one with the people and being one with spirituality and seeing what it can offer her in terms of healing and seeing the perspective of people she's never really connected with is really meaningful, and it's fantastic for her character arc. Thoughtless Gods has 20 pages of a hamster talking to a disabled woman, and it's extremely thrilling, and it's the most compelling short story I've ever read. Like, legitimately, it's amazing. You have to go read it right now. Even the Juno Hero trailer that came out while I was recording today, even though it's not classified as a cinematic, it's still able to tell its own compelling, self-contained story. It also tells us a lot about Juno's character, which is what I think hero trailers are supposed to do. Hero trailers are still kind of in its experimental phase. We'll figure out what hero trailers are eventually. They're still figuring that out. The biggest reason why lore really matters to the characters, because lore is the primary way that these characters are explored and expanded. Lore gives characters that depth that they need to become compelling and become fan favorites. And remember, characters are the main appeal of Overwatch, so it's important that these characters are cared for and have the exploration that they need. As an example, the short shooting star gave D.Va a lot more depth than the game presented her as. And because of that depth, people are able to ship her with Ramatra, and that ship makes just as much sense as Yihan. There, I said it. The more compelling a character is, the more the fan base will gravitate towards them. And the more a fan base gravitates towards a character, the more they're gonna want merchandise and skins and content for that character. If you actually gave Lucio some lore for once, I think more people would be interested in Lucio and want to play him more. And that'll get him to get more skins. lore equals more compelling character equals more skins equals more money. It's a really simple formula. People fall in love and play these heroes because most of the time people play these heroes and buy skins for them because they find the character more compelling. The character gravitates them the first, then the gameplay of that character. I mean, do you really think I have the Zenyatta shirt, Funko Pop, and Figma figure just because I just like playing Zenyatta? No! Zenyatta is a legitimately compelling character to me. On the outside, Zenyatta is just a witty, wise guy, but if you look within and delve deeper into his character that's provided through voice lines, there's a possible underlying anxiety and sense of directionlessness in his life that may or may not be a huge focus of his character arc going forward. The reason why I started playing Ramattra was because I found his character compelling. If he wasn't interesting, I wouldn't be playing him, and that sentiment goes for a lot of people. A lot of people like Ramattra because his character is interesting. Ramattra's lore is why people were mad that Reaper got the mythic and not him. Reaper getting the Anubis mythic instead of Ramattra is a disservice to his character. This was the one time the community collectively defended the lore, and it was beautiful. I think it's pretty clear that recently Blizzard has gone down towards a markability approach to their characters, presentation, and skins, especially in the skins. Kiriko is just getting skins every season. It feels like the same 10 heroes get skins that are prioritized in marketing. And also just generally the characters themselves feel like they're catering more towards a younger audience. Overwatch 2 seems like it's going towards like a more of a theming for its characters of a younger generation kind of thing. I think it's leaning way too much into this direction. Because like a lot of the newer heroes are young in their 20s and inexperienced and generally just catering towards a younger audience. There's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like we definitely still need a lot more variety. There's a lack of representation in older women. There's still a vast majority of the support heroes are still female. I mean, these characters are still compelling, but I just feel like Overwatch 1 just had a lot more variety in its characters compared to Overwatch 2. Malik and Ramattra are just the only two exceptions, it feels like. Because those two characters have been rooted in Overwatch 1 story. And Overwatch 2 heroes just kind of also feel disconnected from the main plot. I mean, Juno seems like a difference right now. Other heroes are connected to pre-existing factions, but Iliadi, she's just chilling. No one knows her. She's just there. I think the ultimate textbook example of this new approach to heroes and markability is Kiriko. Kiriko has been basically genetically engineered to be as marketable as possible. She's a cute anime girl. She has a simple design. She has a fox and spirit powers. She's appealing. Like, artificially so. Like, a stupid amount of merchandise is for her. Like, if you look at the Blizzard store, she's like, I think 17 articles of merchandise, and everyone knows that she gets the most skins for some reason. People have also pointed out that the reason why Kiriko just sticks like a sore thumb compared to the rest of the cast is that because her abilities, most of them for some reason are just kind of canon as this is like weird spirit stuff, and it's like it's purposely very vague so they can get away with not saying it's magic. Magic is just not canon, it's spirit stuff. Spirit stuff is fine. Although like it's always been fine actually. People have been saying like, oh, she breaks canon, she introduces magic. A robot gained sentience for no reason and they became a giant golden ball and gave everyone else sentience, and also those robots can also float with that giant golden ball. But yeah, Kiriko is the one that breaks canon, sure. Kiriko is also just like really boring, and I think the writers know that. Kiriko hasn't gotten any new interactions since her fucking launch like 2 years ago soon at this point. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, her character also kind of feels inconsistent. It's not uncommon for a character's in-game personality to differ from their cinematic personality, but Kiriko is just like all over the place. And you're short, she's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man kind of character. In-game, she's a sassy kind of know-it-all. I don't like her in-game personality. Yokai, she's one who respects tradition and folklore. It feels like she has like 3 to 5 personalities, and they're all, some of them just kind of conflicting to each other. I think the intent is that she has this kind of like tradition versus rebellion kind of thing going on with her character, and that kind of contrast and how that conflicts one another. But I feel like that approach just is not pushed enough or presented at all. I don't know how to feel about her. Personally, I feel she's boring. She has potential, but she's just so disconnected from everything going on that I feel like why is she here at all? Like, is she meant to serve Hanzo's character arc? Is she just there to give Japan more lore? Is she just there for marketing, which is the most likely answer? Actually, I have a challenge for you. If you can make me a 30-minute video analysis about Kiriko's character and prove to me that she's not only interesting, but also just explain to me her character in one coherent interpretation, I'll give you brownie points. Like, I want to see if people like Kiriko enough to actually prove that Kiriko is worthy of being here. It gets a little extreme, but what I mean is, like, I want someone to prove that Kiriko is interesting. That's all I want. 30-minute video analysis. Tell me why she's interesting, and tell me who she is. That's all I ask for. And if you can do that, then okay, I'm wrong. Kiriko's interesting. But if you can't, point proven. My biggest point in regards to why lore matters is the complete opposite of my thesis. People do care. People actually do want lore. Every time a new cinematic comes out, or when we get a collab trailer, a lot of the response I see is that people want animated series. People actually want to see more of these characters in this world. People want archives back. People want story missions for a long time before they were even announced. A lot of people grieved for story missions on its anniversary. The death of PvE hurt a lot of people because it's something they generally wanted. The lore is loved. Despite whatever Blizzard wants to do with it in the future, it is loved, and there's nothing they can do about that. It's also just basic psychology that the more people see something, the more they're gonna grow fond of it. This absolutely applies to characters. If a character gets too much screen time, people get sick of them. If they get too little, people want more of them. But characters who have that sweet spot of the right amount of screen time, they become fan favorites. The lore is healthy for the game. Pushing more lore, pushing more character stuff is healthy for the game. It is extremely crucial to the game. Yeah, lore does not ensure its survival, but it sure as hell will ensure its prosperity. People will not just buy a skin because it's a skin from Overwatch. People will buy a skin if it's attached to a character they really like. Companies better understood this mentality and psychology back in the ancient Rome of the 80s and 90s. Back then, to sell toys, companies made TV show tie-ins to show kids this world and characters first before they're interested in buying the action figures and the toys. Kids will become more attached to a character if they see them and connect with them. Also, by connecting with characters, the kids learn the vital, essential skill of empathy. Kids would fall in love with the characters in the world first and then buy the action figure. Think about it. If a kid is going into a store and wants to buy an action figure, are they gonna buy Optimus Prime or Joe Schmo the supercar? They're gonna go for Optimus Prime because it's a character they recognize and a character they already love. Like, for the modern presentation of heroes and sidelining lore, it feels like the plastic action figure is being shown first and then their story later, rather than the opposite, which is proven to be way more effective. This is why the lore being sidelined when it comes to character presentation just does not feel as effective as the lore first. It's kind of like the equivalent of looking at the action figure first and having the story in the back of the box, rather than just having a show there to watch and appreciate and fall in love with and then buy the character next. Again, this is just to emphasize why Overwatch just feels soulless if skins and merchandise is pushed first rather than the lore and the story. Because it feels like it's going towards an action figure approach. It doesn't have a show tie-in. Soulless, meaningless, and no one wants it. Well, now that PvE is gone and we're going down this markability route and lore will continue to be sidelined, what's next? Now what? What does the future look like? From what we've seen, we do know that we will continue to get character-focused stories, but the main plot right now, the main plot that was built up for 8 years and the plot that PvE was supposed to tell, that is in limbo, and no one knows what's going to happen. It's been a year since the layoffs, so I think they've already probably planning a plan B right now, or maybe it's already set in motion right now. We just don't know. Unless we get communication, we have no idea if the main plot will continue. It probably will, but whatever form it takes, it will definitely not be what was originally envisioned. Doesn't matter what medium the plot takes. I think the plot is just going to progress even slower than it was. I think the 18-month release schedule will probably be the norm for plot progression. The slow progress really sucks because this progress was already slow as hell. I mean, the plot progressed in 8 years, and that's a lot. And people are just not patient anymore. Everyone is tired of waiting. We want to see the plot progress. We want to see more characters. We want to just go. We're done with the past. We're done with setup. Let's just go. But unfortunately, we don't know if the engine's running. We don't know if it's working anymore. Okay, I legitimately, as much as I'm kind of like dooming here, I legitimately believe that the story will continue. Like I said, slower than previously, which is a lot. It's a lot more slower. If we don't get any plot progression by that January, February, March 2025 predicted release date, then I think we can panic. Because that tells me, oh, they don't have a plan B. Oh, never mind. We probably are kind of screwed. Good job. Good job, Blizzard, as always. And the major reason behind the slowness is because there are now less writers and the lore historians are gone as far as I know. There's less manpower to write these stories. I mean, you can outsource freelancers. They've been outsourcing freelancers and other story and franchise development people for the entire lifespan of Overwatch. If you leave the plot and the story only to the freelancers, they're gonna make shit up and it's gonna get messy. So the writers basically do need to work on the story or else it's just not gonna work. If story missions is now off the table, how is it gonna continue? What other medium will we use? Alright, so how do we salvage story missions? A solution I've seen thrown around is to just upload the cutscenes. That's cute, but there's a major problem with that. You can't really upload the outro cutscenes because you are missing the context of the mission itself. So the only way to repurpose and re-upload the cutscenes is to animate the mission, or at least present the mission in another medium and sandwich it in between the cutscenes. I don't think Blizzard is going to just animate the missions. Money and resources and time, and you have to hire new animators and you have to hire people because after they just laid off everyone. Although it is possible to just redo everything, as there are storyboards of unfinished missions out there. I'm pretty sure the whole plot has been written too. The hard part's over. The skeleton's done. You can just put whatever skin over it. I think an animated series is the most popular option for the fandom, but whether that works or not kind of depends on how it's presented. The thing you have to understand is that the lore and the characters of Overwatch are very tightly controlled. Blizzard does not give these characters to just anyone. You gotta know what you're doing if you want to handle Overwatch characters. So I can't really see them just working with a studio, a professional studio, or like a streaming service to make the animated series, because their executives are probably gonna want to make some changes, and I don't think that's gonna end well at all. If we're gonna see an animated series, I think the most likely route is to just go for a web series that's produced in-house, because get that control, people in-house know what they're doing, so it's just a better option. But again, it's also an expensive option. So I feel like that is, unfortunately, it's the best case scenario, but it's also rather unrealistic. They cannot do short stories or novels. It's clear that the PvE missions are meant to be seen and heard. So just writing it just feels like a disservice to the story and would really sacrifice a lot. I mean, you're also wasting a lot of assets, like the music and voice acting and sound effects and stuff. Like all of that would just be burned, wasted. Also just, like I said, putting it in a written medium would just not work and be a complete disservice to the original intent of the story. People choose certain mediums for certain reasons. No, honestly, I think the best and most realistic option is just to put in some sort of comic format. I mean, yeah, you would probably sacrifice the music and the sound effects and voice acting and stuff, but there are ways to get around this. Recently, we've seen this new kind of lore presentation called story times, where the voice actor of the character dubs over the comic their character is based on. And I can see where this kind of medium can be really pushed to its limits to bring the story of PvE to justice. So I'm imagining something like this. Let's call it like the story experience. So you go into the experience, you start with the intro cinematic, and then you go into the mission, which has been turned into a comic. However, this comic is slightly animated, dialogue is dubbed with the voice actors, there's music playing, and sound effects play when you turn the page or go to a specific panel. This multi-medium deal would really make the comic really pop. It would reanimate the mission in a way that's charming and special and unique. And you don't have to sacrifice anything. I mean, all the sound effects and voice and music assets can be reused and you don't waste any money. The most money you have to go into is to make the comic. After the comic, then you can transition to the outro cutscene. By combining these mediums and reusing the cutscenes and the audio assets, nothing is lost, and it's also cheaper. So I feel like this is definitely a good solution. People like the storytime video, so I think expanding that and trying to make it into a multimodal medium kind of thingamajiggy, I think would be really successful and unique. I think another way to present the missions as a comic is through a graphic novel. A graphic novel you'd probably have to pay for it, obviously, and it may not be able to be put on the website for free. Well, maybe if they split into parts, then they could probably. However, if that graphic novel does get canceled, that irony will just be glorious for several reasons. So my personal favorite, best, number one genius solution to salvaging story missions is through a webtoon webcomic/webcomic. Same thing. This webcomic format has been experimented with a Transformers comic. I haven't really seen the response to a specific format before. I think people were just more interested in seeing Ramatra and Megatron together. But from what I know, that vertical scroll webcomic format is very popular with younger audiences. That vertical scroll is what everyone's already used to. And the traditional comic format is kind of phasing out of popularity. Again, as far as I know, I'm not an expert in comics. I also know very well that the vertical format does have a lot of creative potential. I have a webcomic, go read it now. The Sana request is in order. And I've used both Webtoon and Tapas. And from my experience, working on a webcomic is really fun. Experimenting with paneling is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of cool effects you can do, the composition and the art. By uploading the comics and parts over a long period of time, you can get people to tune in, regularly read that webcomic. Webtoon and Tapas also have monetization tools, so you can make money. Having a consistent reschedule can eliminate the problem of the very slow pacing of the story. Having Overwatch media on a new platform will get new fans and people to get engaged in the story, and perhaps if they're engaged in the story, they can go play Overwatch and you get more players and get more money because they buy skins and fall in love with the game. So webcomics are a great way to get a new audience. Webtoon is also a very shady company, so I think you guys will get along pretty great. I know this still does not solve the problem of audio assets being sacrificed. I think if webcomics are big enough, or at least our webtoon originals, that you can add audio tracks to specific panels and stuff. I'm not big enough to do this. I will never do that because I'd rather die than sign a contract with Webtoon. My company doesn't have much to lose though, I'd say. But anyway, if the Webtoon thing does work out and it can be original, you can reuse the music assets. What I'm saying is, making an Overwatch webcomic probably one of the best options in terms of revenue. It also just has a lot of more advantages to get more audiences and to get the lore on a better pace than the other options. The Avatar The Last Airbender comics have been put on Webtoon. From last time I've checked, they've been doing pretty well. They've also been uploaded by Dark Horse, so that means Dark Horse works with Webtoon, which means a guy knows a guy, so it's possible to get it done. I mean, honestly, this solution is kind of unlikely because then again, you're giving the characters to a company and tight control and stuff. But honestly, I think this option is just a really fun and really good option for both the player base and the company. Well, so after everything, what can we do? Is there anything we can do to support the lore and try and get it back in the spotlight and get Blizzard to stop selling us only skins for content? Well, yeah. Hey Overwatch team, unionize, please. Get your hold hands and frolic and then unionize. Fight against your stupid higher ups, please. I'm begging you. Just unionize. I don't know how it works, but I think it makes things better, so I think you should do that, please, and thank you. You deserve to get justice for what happened to PvE, you know, your passion project of like more than 5 years. You deserve to have a say in the thing you make, the thing you're being paid to fucking make. Unionize! Please. Solution 2 that probably may or may not work is to just engage with the lore more. Just tell your friends and be annoying about the lore. Talk about the animated shorts again. Talk about the comics and the short stories. Engage more with the lore, even if it's just with your favorite character. Making Blizzard see that the lore, not just the characters, the entire lore matters and is worth their investment would probably do wonders for its future, and I think it's definitely worth it. A while ago, there was an attempt to try and get the lore in the Blizzard's eyes again, called the Overwatch Party, where basically a bunch of community members got together and we just binged together cinematic shorts and expressed our appreciation for it. And I think we should do that again. Just doing that more often and just keep yelling in Blizzard's faces can really help. If there's anything I've learned about corporations, is that bullying works wonderfully. So let's bully kids. Probably the biggest way to get lore back in the spotlight and to open the eyes of the people. We need to get Blizzard to talk about PvE and the future of the lore and what really happened, because they've been silent since January 2024, and that is evil, okay? Half of your team got fired, and the story is in limbo, and everything you promised is just gone. You're just gonna forget it ever happened. Excuse me, Mr. Keller, the executive producer, the marketing team, the social media team, the executives, whoever the hell has the clearance to talk about PvE and break the silence, do it. Just say something. You promised you would be more transparent with us, but it's looking pretty fucking opaque over here. If you continue to say nothing, you're a coward. But if you say something, you've just told everyone you broke your promises and you're incompetent. It is a lose-lose situation. So just rip off the band-aid and get it done with, okay? Just get it over with, and then you can move on and be friends again. Probably not friends, but acquaintances. That's good enough. There is a tragic irony of a story with prominent themes of the incompetence of people in power and corporate corruption is being sabotaged and ruined by the incompetence of people in power and corporate corruption. Satire is not real. The whole story of PvE and lore and everything is just further evidence of this mindset in today's world. That profit is always more important than art. That is our current mentality, and what's going on with the creative industries nowadays is just evidence of that. Actors and voice actors are being replaced by celebrities just because they're more well known by the people, which is squandering a lot of opportunities for rising talent. Is right now, as we speak, the animation industry is fighting to have an industry at all. I'm pretty sure you already know what's going on with the gaming industry. The fact that no one can keep a job nowadays, apparently. And over all of this is the looming threat of AI just outright replacing all of us just because it saves a couple bucks. Companies and CEOs, they don't care about art. They don't care about storytelling or the human touch or, ew, that doesn't make money, gross. Then they just want money the cheapest way possible with no risk reward, and those guys are the real cowards of the world. And I just fear, again, with AI, things are just gonna get worse. I fear that storytelling and just art in general and the human touch is just slowly fading away from mainstream media. Going indie and doing your own thing is like the best option nowadays, but we're broke. We have no money. We can't advertise. We need the support of those big companies just to get our voices heard. If you just do it your own way, then the only way to get that voice heard is just by sheer luck. Big companies and studios and stuff, that's how we get our microphone. That is the way. That's not the way anymore. Like, no, we can't do that anymore. Our future generations might as well just have shitty storytelling and, continue to lose the human touch that storytelling provided them. And, well, that sucks. I care about Overwatch Lore a lot because it's a hopeful story. I mean, bad shit happens. Bad shit is happening right now. But overall, it has hope. It has hope for this world, which I really need right now because our world sucks a lot. And really, that hopeful take on the world is just really refreshing today. But now to see that hopeful world view just like not be important and just be squandered and squashed and shoved into a closet, dude, that just makes me feel worse about the world. Wow, thanks. I care about Overwatch. I care about these stories. I care about these characters, and I care very deeply about the artists who are trying their hardest and having their creative life force be drained just to try and make something that'll make people happy. The only people you should blame for the death of PvE in all of this is the Blizzard executives who are making these decisions. Do not blame the team. Do not blame the content creators. Do not blame the fans. It is all entirely the fault of Blizzard. Going back to my thesis, some people do care, but Blizzard just doesn't care. That's the problem. Overwatch deserves a better company. They deserve people who actually care about them. The Overwatch team deserves higher-ups that listen to them. They deserve a way to better realize a creative vision and to make something they truly love and not pump out a million other Kiriko skins for the next 20 years. But that's just the reality we live in, so I need a new hobby. This is probably not only my longest video ever, but the first time I've made a video essay like this. This is the first time that I'm putting my face on internet for all the world to see purposefully for reasons of activism. Because I care, and I know the risks and consequences that come with showing my face on the internet. But I do it anyway because I care. Because Overwatch means something to me. It's not just a game where you shoot other people. It's a world. It is a story. It's a soul. and it's human. So, to conclude this video, I'm going to read my favorite quote from Stone by Stone. Although this quote is also my favorite, but I also specifically chose to read this quote because I feel like it just summarizes my thoughts very well. "We welcome all visitors, of course," Zenyatta said, his gaze not on her, but on the ruined statue. "But in my life's journey, I have seen too many things of beauty, of true spirit, become more tourist attraction than sacred space. Those who are meant to come here will. Their path will be laid for them, stone by stone, as they walk it. As for a new temple, this one still serves. While there is energy in the new, there is power in the ancient, Satya, even if it is fragile. When we are deep in meditation, we can almost hear the whispers of the myriad voices spoken within its walls over the last 1,000 and more years." Well, it can't get any worse.